In tonight's Faces of San Antonio, meet a woman who has dedicated her life to caring for hundreds of children when they needed it most.
Okay, these are two more of mine. This little guy right here is almost 3.
Peggy Bean is introducing us to the 4 foster children she is currently raising.
This little girl has severe medical problems. She has heart conditions and a syndrome called a George syndrome.
In fact, all the children under Peggy's care have medical problems. We are blurring their faces to protect their identities. 9-year-old Jose ran away from our cameras.
Are you okay? You want me to close your curtains for a little bit so you can be by yourself? Through here, I'll show you the other one.
Lastly, we meet a sweet little girl who is not expected to live much longer.
This little girl is almost 2, and she's a shaken baby.
These stories make Peggy most upset. When healthy babies and children are so severely abused, they have little to no future.
Well, it makes me angry. To be honest, I'm angry about it, and most of the parents never pay for it if they do anything to them.
Caring for these 4 foster children 24/7, mainly by herself, might surprise some. But as you learn more, you realize Peggy is nothing short of a saint. As we walk into the hallway of her home, taking up every inch of wall space are the pictures of every child she has fostered.
How many children have you fostered?
287 so far.
At 76 years old, Peggy has fostered children for nearly 50 years. While fostering, Peggy and her husband had 6 biological children. One might wonder why Peggy continues to foster. Simply put,
it's a calling, and I'm going to do it forever and ever and ever.
Some of the babies she fosters aren't expected to live very long.
This is what we call our tube room, because all the babies that are on feeding tubes, and they most always are.
You've lost lives in this room.
Yes.
What is that like?
Well, it's hard. I just always want to be holding them, if at all possible. And I've done that with all except one.
Peggy tells me she does this because she believes everybody deserves to belong to somebody. In the room are the pictures of those sweet lives that have died within its 4 walls.
How many tears have been shed in this room?
Oh, too many to count.
Most all of Peggy's foster children are eventually adopted, and some have come back to thank her.
She was there for me when I needed her.
Amy Malloy is one of the nearly 300 children Peggy has loved over the years. As she walks into the hallway, she quickly finds her picture and learns she was Peggy's 54th foster child.
This is my picture from when I was a bean baby.
And as you were saying, so 54 is your official lucky number.
54 is my official lucky number. Lucky number 54.
We are both just in awe of the hundreds of faces.
Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm blessed to have been on this wall.
Though Peggy works hard and rarely gets a break, these children give her much joy. Plus, she makes time for one other thing.
You don't drink, you don't smoke, but you do have one vice.
Yes. Spurs.
Peggy loves the Spurs so much, her home is covered in silver and black. She collects a lot of memorabilia, but there is one that is most special.
Oh, my favorite piece?
Yes.
David Robinson's rookie shoes up there on the wall. They're not even autographed. That was what I wanted more than anything in the world, those white shoes.
Many might call this great-grandmother an angel here on Earth.
Well, I get called that a lot, but I don't really think that. I don't really believe that. Because I'm just doing something that I love to do and that I have the capabilities of doing.
But her hundreds of babies know the truth.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. She is an angel.
That's when it all hit the fan. Massive resistance. That's Virginia.
We need to start doing the news like this again.
I remember they used to do the news like that. You come forward like that.
One of Virginia's high schools which closed on a segregated basis.
Today, I am not only sitting down with Lewis Cousins to watch history, I am learning firsthand from the man who himself is living history.
Hey, we are right there.
You see, when Cousins was only 15 years old, he was the first black student to attend his high school in Norfolk, Virginia.
I was the only one in the entire high school.
A high school with more than 2,000 students.
That was the iconic photos. Whenever you think of integration in Norfolk, you see that picture. And it went around the world.
On his first day of school in 1958, a photographer snapped this photo, one that would grace the covers of magazines and books for years to come.
When I sit in the front, not knowing that there was nobody else that would sit there. And that's why you have that iconic picture of me sitting by myself that went around the world, because there was no one that was going to sit near me.
On that day, his mother walked with him to school.
So as we went around the school, walking towards the school, there were adults and children all standing on both sides, calling names and insults and everything else.
What did you guys talk about as you were walking?
Well, trying to be encouraging.
It was something he faced every single day.
Students didn't want to be too close to me because they didn't want to be ostracized by their peers. Every once in a while, some of them were brave enough to sit and have lunch with me. Or maybe talk to me.
Cousins described it as a lonely existence.
But these guys are policemen around me.
But he knew he needed to press on.
We knew that everybody depended on us to go there and do our best. And that's what we tried to do.
Despite everything he went through, there was only one time he fought back. It happened when a student spit on him.
And that's the only time that I can say I really lost it. Because I saw that, looked down, I saw him grinning and laughing, and I saw that spit on my arm, and I just lost it, and I just ran after him.
Cousins chased after the kid right into the principal's office. When the principal learned what happened, he expelled the student and apologized to Cousins.
We didn't have a choice, because you have to consider now, the limelight was on Norfolk to see how we were going to react and see what was going to happen.
3 years later, Cousins graduated from high school and studied at Norfolk State University for 1 year before joining the Air Force. He served in Vietnam as a medic, which is what eventually brought him to San Antonio.
The training that I received when I was sent to Vietnam as a medic, I saw things and did things that you can't imagine. And when I came back, I said, I have to get out of this field, because I didn't have it. My mind was shot for a while. We didn't call it PTSD back then. You just said, hey, your mind is not right.
Cousins got into the laboratory field. He ran labs for the military and for Methodist Hospital, where he retired from in 2008. Today, he enjoys spending time with his beautiful wife, Dolores, in their yard and taking pictures.
I became a camera bug in Vietnam because I had a medical bag, I had a weapon, and I had a camera. So everywhere I went, I carried those with me.
And he also takes every opportunity to share this message to the youth of today.
It's important for them to understand what sacrifices have been made so they can just go to school with different people, play sports with different people, or just have the opportunity to get the education.
Right now I'm looking at this player right here, this guy right here.
John Peterson is a busy man.
He's 6'5", 325.
As a college scout for the Carolina Panthers, he looks at hundreds, if not thousands, of football players every year.
The athletic ability that he has, strength, power, and explosion, how he competes, his toughness, his physical play.
At 67 years old, John says he may be the oldest scout in the NFL.
Defensive tackle, he still plays and starts for Seattle right now.
But he loves his job.
My favorite part of the job, and this may sound, I guess, kind of corny, but is the interaction with the college coaches.
John spends 265 days of the year on the road, traveling to different colleges in his area. As a former coach himself, John has spent the last 20 years as a scout, the first 11 with the Seattle Seahawks, before joining the Carolina Panthers. While he was born and raised in Michigan, it was a big job back in 1991 that brought him and his family to San Antonio.
I was able to get the general manager job here in San Antonio with our San Antonio Riders of the World League of American Football. And we hired Mike Riley as our head coach. Coach Tom Landry was a part owner of that organization. Our quarterback we drafted was a guy named Jason Garrett, was our quarterback. Okay, the first pick we selected.
The league only lasted 2 seasons, but John decided to stay in San Antonio with his family. He has 6 children and 9 grandchildren. I asked him how difficult it is to be on the road for more than 2/3 of the year.
You have to have a football wife. That's the first goal. You have to have a wife who is able to keep the whole thing together. And our church is also another strong molding of our children.
He shared stories of his many years in the NFL, and one really sticks out.
I was home for Thanksgiving, and at that time I picked up the Express News and was reading about Trinity playing St. John's University in a playoff game from Minnesota.
He decided to go to the game and check out a player the paper had written about, yet he had never heard of.
And this player's name is Jeremy Urban, and he's playing for Trinity University, and he takes the opening kickoff and goes 99 yards. And goes on that day to have 10 or 12 catches and a number of yards and so forth. In the meantime, by about the fourth quarter, I'm making notes on Jeremy Urban. The man next to me taps me on the shoulder. Who are you looking at? This guy right over here. Oh, that's my son.
Urban went on to sign with the Seahawks and later went to the Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals. After 9 years in the NFL, he is now head coach at Trinity. John is a very humble man. In 2010, he was awarded the NFL Scout of the Year.
The scout for the whole NFL.
Yeah.
And he has a ring to prove it. But that's not the only ring. He has a conference champion ring.
That is so cool.
From his time with the Seattle Seahawks.
She,
The
when they
team went to
started the
Super Bowl
organization,
40,
for instance,
but lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He hopes this Sunday there will be a different outcome for his Panthers.
So what are you looking forward to the most this weekend for the Super Bowl?
A win. A win.
Today, officers Monty, McCann, and Joe Ferris are going grocery shopping, sort of.
What about these mashed potatoes?
Yeah, help yourself.
It's not often you'll find San Antonio police officers at the food pantry at the Guadalupe Community Center run by Catholic Charities.
Yeah, definitely get some peanut butter, dude. A big old size.
But these two officers aren't getting food for themselves.
Yeah, let's go with a pie. I think a pie would be good.
They're getting food to deliver to some homeless they met a few weeks ago. From here, it's back into their police unit and on to making their delivery.
Is that it, or is there more? Every person has a different story.
Officer McCann and Ferris make up the department's new HOPE team, which stands for
Homeless Outreach Positive Encounters.
It's a new unit aimed at helping the homeless community. Both officers have more than 20 years in law enforcement, most of those years spent as bicycle officers downtown.
When we first started, you know, it was, once they recognized that it was the police officers coming out there, they'd scatter.
The team only started 3 months ago, and already they've made strides within the homeless community.
We've walked away from different homeless camps and just walking up and meeting people on the street, and we've gotten incredible responses where grown men have walked away with tears in their eyes because their parting words are they've never had an experience with the police like they've had with us.
Today, the officers received a call from a man they met at Haven for Hope 3 weeks ago. While he and 2 others had found some temporary housing, they didn't have any food. So the officers jumped right in to help.
How are you, man? How you doing?
It was amazing to see the response when the officers walked in with all the food.
How does it make you feel to see all this food come in here?
Good, because I mean, for a few days we were like, didn't know what we was gonna do.
What's even more incredible is that Marvin Johnson recognized Officer McCann from several years back when he was on bike patrol. In fact, even back then, the officer was always ready to help.
He got me a wheelchair.
Then 3 weeks ago, the officers teamed up with the organization Embassy of Hope to hand out purses filled with toiletries to homeless women. Marvin and his cousin Joseph got some purses for family members that were inside Haven for Hope.
Can vegetables and everything.
And 3 weeks later, the officers from the HOPE team were there once again to help.
And what do you know, they came through. Second time, third time.
And we have some more great news. We're told the officers have assisted Marvin and Joseph with their application and interview for food stamps and a job application and interview for Joseph. In fact, Joseph not only interviewed, but he was hired and just completed his job orientation. If you have someone you think we should highlight in our Faces of San Antonio series, send me an email to Ramos@news4sanantonio.com. You can also reach me on my Facebook and Twitter pages.